Hello, my name is Dennis, and welcome to my trailer park white trash mobile home kitchen. I really do live in a mobile home, in a trailer park, and this is my kitchen. For this video, I thought I would make something that I invented rather recently, smoked salmon quiche. I was thinking about quiche one day, and I thought smoked salmon might be good in it, so I made it several times. I actually made it 5 times before I got the flavors balanced correctly. Then the 6th time I made it, I brought it to work, and it was the first place empty at work, so I know the people at work liked it. So here was the 7th time. I think this smoked salmon quiche is just as good as a fancy dish to go out at a special occasion, and it would work equally well by bringing it to a potluck or a picnic. It just seems to go well anywhere. So let's get into the ingredients for making smoked salmon quiche. The ingredients for making smoked salmon quiche: for the crust, I'm using 1½ cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of water, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 large egg, and then I have 1/2 cup of butter. The butter and the egg are at room temperature. The reason for that will be evident when I combine my ingredients for my crust. And then for the filling, I'm using 8 ounces of smoked salmon that I've chopped fairly well, a scant 1/8 of a teaspoon each of fresh ground pepper or white pepper, cinnamon, and oregano. And this is powdered oregano, the ground oregano, not the leaf oregano. And then 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 4 large eggs, and then I have 4 ounces of Gruyère cheese that I shredded. So those are the ingredients for our smoked salmon quiche. To make our dough, I'm going to put my flour in 1 large bowl, and then I'm going to combine my egg, my salt, and my egg in a smaller bowl, and then just use a whisk to break this up. And then put my butter in. This is why you need the butter at room temperature, because if this was all hard and cold, it would not break up in this next step. I want to break this butter up kind of into small beads here. Okay, if you look closely there, you can see how the butter has been broken up into small beads, and it's just in time for the train to go by. Yes, I live near the railroad tracks. That's the proof that this really is a trailer park. Then I'm going to put this in my bowl and start combining this. At some point here, I'm going to use my fingers to combine this into a dough. This is a very easy dough. I've made this many times. I use it for a lot of different pastries. I'll vary some of the ingredients depending upon how much dough I need, like whether I need a top crust as well as a bottom crust. Sometimes I'll add sugar, sometimes I'll add almond flavoring or anise extract. Okay, I'm going to get my fingers into this now and bring this together. It gets smooth very quick, so you don't have to do a lot of kneading here. Okay. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to knead that a whole lot. So that's how quickly that combines. The next thing I'm going to do is make a pie shell out of that, and then we'll start working with the filling. I shaped this by hand. I think it's so easy to work with that I just shape it by hand. I've got a large rolling pin, but I never use it because this just shapes so easily by hand. I use my hand around the edge here as it just helps it to not crack. I've made this dough so many times, I just know how it's going to work. I'm going to get a plastic scraper just to lift that off. Because this will help. Oops. How am I doing here? I'm just about there. Getting flour on my shirt. I should have worn a light colored shirt. Okay, let me see if I can get this lifted without tearing it. Just going to roll it onto my hand. A little bit of a tear there. That'll fix when it goes into the bowl, to the pie plate. Now I'm just going to ease that down in as best I can. Try to squeeze the air out of the bottom. And then all this stuff that's hanging around the edge, I'm not going to trim that off. I'm actually going to use this. I'm going to shape it up and use this to give myself a decorated edge. First, gather it all up. Okay. And then just going to use my fingers here. Kind of use a finger, 2 fingers and my thumb to just press the edges into this kind of a fluted edge. Just about all the way around, coming around the home stretch here. And then what I do, because this edge is kind of thin and that's likely to burn, the last thing to do is kind of pat this down a little bit so that's a little bit thicker and less likely to burn in the oven. And that's how easy it is to shape our pie crust. Again, it's a very easy crust to work with. I've made it so many times. It does tear a little bit sometimes, but you can see it all came back together again. It looks fine. So the next thing to do is our filling. First thing I want to do is combine my cream and my spices. Again, this is heavy cream. And then my spices. Okay, and then work in the salmon. I love smoked salmon. Get the salt in there, just a little bit of salt. I'm not using much salt for this because the salmon has a lot of salt in it. I shouldn't say a lot, but it provides enough salt. So I'm only putting a small amount of salt in that. And then I want to I like to break eggs on wood because they seem to break so much better. That one kind of skyrocketed on me. I'm going to beat these eggs up only lightly. I don't want this to be purely all homogenized because I like a little bit of variety in the quiche. I like to see some of the egg white, some of the yolk. So rather than
bring this up really smooth. You can see there's some pieces of egg white in there. I like that. It gives me a little more texture to my quiche. All right. I'm going to pour that in there and stir that in. Not being real fussy here because, again, I want the texture to vary a little bit inside of the quiche. And then I want to, as a last step, bring in my Gruyère. And I'm only going to just stir this in to get it blended. Meanwhile, I have my oven heating up to 375 degrees. Okay, I don't want to do that too much more because I don't want to get it too smooth. And then my last step here is to pour my filling into my pie shell. You can see how quickly this goes. This is not a lot of difficult work. Kind of smooth that out a little bit. Okay, I'm satisfied with that. That's ready to go into the oven. This will bake about 30 to 45 minutes. I'm looking for a nicely browned top. I will check it with a digital thermometer. If I get it up to between 180, 190, even above 190 degrees, I won't have any water that will dribble out. I notice if it's not cooked quite enough, some water will come out when you go to cut it. So at about 180, between 180, 190 degrees or so, this should be set just perfectly. Here is our quiche, fresh from the oven. I checked the temperature. It got up to about 185 degrees, so I'm very happy with the temperature. So here's our fresh, hot from the oven smoked salmon quiche. We have bread and brie on the table and coffee. We'll be opening up a bottle of wine, so let's go have a fantastic dinner. No, we've had enough.